Outside our shores, just a day after seizing power, the Guinea-Bissau military has appointed General Horta Ntam as the country's transition president for 1 year. His swearing-in was held at the Armed Forces headquarters with dozens of heavily armed soldiers present. The appointment follows the overthrow of Umaru Mbalo, whose arrest was announced by the military, and comes amid broader suspension of the recent election, border closures, and a nationwide curfew. Meanwhile, the African Union has called for the immediate and unconditional release of Guinea-Bissau's president, Umaru Mbalo, after the military seized power. Since 2020, 7 African countries have fallen under military rule. Here's a timeline: nations currently governed by juntas and the circumstances that brought them there. All right, let's now turn to an international journalist and global affairs analyst, Tamzaka Zhu, for this conversation. Thank you for being here. 7 military coups in 5 years. Is Africa not reading the handwriting on the wall?
Yeah, good to see you, and good evening to your viewers as well. Well, if you were asking people who are monitoring what's happening in Burkina Faso and other places where they claim that there's more delivery that is being seen under military leadership than what the democracies would have brought even during all those years of Blaise Compaoré and others. You know, the question then will be, when we see all these coups d'etat, are they in the best interest of Africa, as in the common person? Is what we call Western type of democracy delivered for Africa? The jury on that is out. There's no doubt that a democracy is always better because people are expressing themselves, they are being governed by people that they choose. But whether the people that have been able to lead Africa with all these elections have delivered is another question. That is why I think a lot of youth in Africa, West Africa in particular, appear not to be opposed to these military takeovers we are seeing.
Your thoughts on the responses to this coup? It seems that we get that initial huff and then we seem to get silence and it becomes business as usual. 7 countries in Africa, that's a lot. That is a lot, but you know, sometimes you've got institutions and leaders who are, by way of the global order, the way that democracy is promoted, you have to respond. So there's a script, there's a template, there's something that's always waiting in the press room. So all you need to do is change the name of the country and issue the press statement out. You condemn it, and then you probably suspend the country from all the participations that you can see. But I think if you look further, you will say it goes back to the question that you and I were discussing probably more than a year ago, which is all about what type of democracy or leadership or political system does Africa need? Should it be the Chinese model? Should it be something that is African in its culture, in its nature? Because that is the only solution, because it would appear that for most African countries, Western democracy has not delivered since the 60s or the 80s or whenever these countries became independent. The life of the ordinary person does not appear to be better, regardless of the elections. A lot of money is used during election time. A lot of people die during election time. A lot of people complain that there's no credibility in the way that elections are done. But the lives of the ordinary people does not appear to change from one government to the next, except, of course, for a few. So that is a question that is out there. So it might be 7 countries, it might be more, it might be less. But I think if you look at Guinea-Bissau and the history of Guinea-Bissau, it's actually, for most people who follow these things, they would say Guinea-Bissau was always vulnerable anyway. When you look at the history, and when you follow what has happened in the past. That much is true. They've had a couple of that since independence. I wish we had more time, Tamzaka. Thank you, as always, for speaking with us.
Pleasure.